Good morning, Morai Rabotai. We are continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Siman Samachtet, Hilchot Kriyat Shema, Daf Kuf Gimel Amud Bet, the regular pages of Shulchan Aruch, Mishna Berurah, Seif Bet. A blind person, can he do Prisat Shema? The Siman that we're talking about is about being Pores al Shema, to do like a half a Kaddish and the Baruch Hu and the mini tefillah, so to speak. Can a Suma do this? Can a blind man, Rahman Islam, do it? Now we know, for instance, that the Suma, a blind man does not say Brachav Bore More Ha'esh every Motzei Shabbat. That we know, right? Well, how about Yotzer HaMeorot? You're thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the light that the sun provides. You know, you wake up in the morning and it's light. Especially you will thank Hashem tremendously if you have been in pitch black, for instance, in places that there's no artificial light, right? And you remember when Hurricane Sandy hit a few years ago, and we were in an area that the entire region lost its electricity. The whole thing. I mean, there are thousands of trees that they're uprooted, and they cut all of the lines of electricity. So you had this whole large region that had no. So it came at night. It was you literally relied on the moonlight. That was it. And it was dark. You could see, it was beautiful actually to see sky and so on and so on. So you wake up in the morning, there's light. You say Yotzer HaMeorot. I mean, this is really an offshoot of that. We spoke about this when we spoke about the Kriyat Shema earlier on. We spoke about the Suma. And we said that we're going to speak about it more here. So here it is. You say Yotzer HaMeorot. The halacha is that he would say Yotzer HaMeorot. Even though that the bracha is literally thanking Hashem for creating light, and he sees no light, Rahman al-Islam. So he does say the bracha. Now you have to understand why it is that he says the bracha. What's the difference between this and the bracha of Moreh Ha'esh? Why not Moreh Ha'esh? And why yes, Yotzer HaMeorot? Right? So let's. So that's a good question. This would apply even for a person that was born blind. There are certain differences in the brachot that you say for someone that was born blind versus someone that went blind later. But in this regards, it doesn't make really a difference. So Suma afal pi shelo ra'a meorot miyamav, a blind man, Rahman al-Islam, even though that he never saw meorot, that means he was born blind. Pores al Shema, he still says Birkat Kriyat Shema. He could be Pores al Shema, this whole thing of saying the Kaddish and Baruch Hu and so on. Umevarech Yotzer HaMeorot. You could say the bracha of Yotzer HaMeorot shehu ne'eneh b'meorot shero'in acherim, because he could benefit from the help that others extend to him, and others could help him because they could see. And they could see because there's light. So he indirectly benefits from Yotzer HaMeorot. Therefore, he could say Yotzer HaMeorot because he is a beneficiary of the Meorot that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created. Hence, he could say the bracha. Great. The Kaf HaChaim over here says, wait a second. What happens with Meoreh Ha'esh? And says the Kaf HaChaim, even though that he's not going to say Meoreh Ha'esh, the reason is because by Yotzer HaMeorot in the brachot of Kriyat Shema, you are saying the bracha on the Hana'ah, and you are benefiting from, indirectly, though be it, but you're benefiting from other people being able to see the Meorot, the lights. But in the bracha Moreh Ha'esh is not necessarily directly hinging on benefiting from the light of the candle, but you have to be able to use the light of the candle. Therefore, you see people take their hand and it has to be close up and so on and so forth. You have to be able to use it, and this person cannot use it, and therefore you don't say the bracha. Av Meoreh Ha'esh, says the Kaf HaChaim. Says the Mishna Berurah over here. Gam yuchal lered lifnei hateva, could even be a shaliach tzibur for tefillah, as we mentioned before in Siman Nun Gimel, which we mentioned it. And yesh limlo ale katan shelo yifros al Shema. This whole thing that we said, Pores al Shema, you don't want a minor to do Prisat Shema. even though that's not a full tefillah, but you don't want the katan to be. Now, how about other halachot of shaliach tzibur, right? For instance, we had the halachot of shaliach tzibur that the person, also earlier on in Siman Nun Gimel, that the shaliach tzibur that is wearing ripped clothing or his arms are showing and so on, cannot be a shaliach tzibur. We mentioned at the time, B'shato, the Chacham Obadiah is very stringent about this, that even short sleeves nowadays are considered, is considered pocheach, and therefore you can't become shach. How about Purisat al-Shema? This miniature tefillah that everyone has davened and someone gets up there and says Kaddish and so on, that the poskim write that you could do Purisat Shema. The Kaf HaChaim, others, they agree that you could be lenient with that regard. Okay, so says the Shulchan Aruch, Siman Ayin, we start with Zrat Hashem. Who is patur from Kriyat Shema? We spoke about the amazing sgulot of Kriyat Shema, importance of Kriyat Shema, the Oraita, Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim, Kabbalat Mitzvot. Amazing. Is there anybody that's patur from Shema? So says Shulchan Aruch, of course there is. And this is a Gemara in Masechet Brachot. We learned this in Daf Chaf Amud Aleph. Nashim va'avadim pturim mikriyat Shema mipereshim mitzvat aseh she'azman grama. Just like any other positive time-bound mitzvah, anything that has time limitation, Nashim and Avadim are patur, because they are dedicated and obligated to do their daily obligations, and you can't really obligate them to have time-bound things to do. Therefore, they will be patur from mitzvot aseh she'azman grama. But it's a proper thing to do to teach them that they should accept upon themselves all malchut shamayim, the yoke of Hashem, the yoke of the mitzvot. It's amazing. So therefore, the Ramah writes, "Ve'yikru lefachot pasuk rishon." Minimum, they should at least do the pasuk rishon, even though that they're not mechuyavot, even though that the nashim are not obligated, but they should do it nevertheless because it's kabbalat ol malchut shamayim. Now, this that the ladies are patur, is it midoraita only, or is it even midrabanan? The halacha is even midrabanan, they are paturot. They're not obligated. Now, how about a person whose gender is not so clear? We're not talking about gender dysphoria. Those, it's just, we're not talking about that, right? If someone is confused about their gender, they should take care of that with a different, it's not a halachic area. The halacha regards to man as a man and a woman as a woman. There are only two genders, and that's it in that regard. And again, there are people who don't feel comfortable with the gender that they are, and we feel for them and so on and so forth, but nevertheless, it's not a halachic thing. But there are people who physically, medically, they are not so clear. Androgynous is not so clear. Tumtum is not clear. The genitalia are not developed properly, and that's so that the Kaf HaChaim writes that they are chayav to read Kriyat Shema because safek deoraita the chumra. If you're mesupak, if you're chayav to say Shema or not, that's safek deoraita, and it will be the chumra. Now, a person that speaks but cannot hear, right? A person that could speak but is deaf, cannot hear. Kaf HaChaim says that he's chayav to say Kriyat Shema, even though that a full cheresh, a person, when Chazal talk about cheresh shoteh v'katan, that are patur from mitzvot, they're referring to a cheresh which is eno shomea ve'eno medaber, is deaf and is mute. Rahman litzlach. But the person that's deaf but not mute, says the Kaf HaChaim is chayav to say Kriyat Shema, right? Even though that he doesn't hear himself, and we said in the Gemara, Shema, Hashma lo oznecha ma she'ata motzei mipicha, and he can't hear himself, but still will be chayav to all the mitzvot, right? Now, how about the person that hears but can't speak, mute but not deaf? So Kaf HaChaim seems to indicate that he's also chayav to say Shema. Of course, we're talking about the case that he knows how to lip things, at least. I mean, he's not, because he's deaf. He's mute, rather, he can't talk. But he'll say it, and that's what seems to be from Chacham Obadia as well. And again, this could happen for somebody that temporarily can't speak because he had an operation on the throat area and whatnot. There could be cases that the person can't voice the words, can't say the words, but he could lip them. That would be for that day, for that period of time, that would be applicable to those people as well. So it says the Chafetz Chaim upturot gamken mi birkot kriyat Shema. It's not just that they're patur from Shema, they're patur from kriyat Shema and brachot of kriyat Shema, because that also has a set time. Birkot kriyat Shema is time bound. There's the Rabbanan, there's the Rabbinic, it's time bound, so therefore they are patur. But says the Chafetz Chaim, about birkat emet v'yatziv, then it can al inyan zchirat yetziat Mitzrayim, the bracha emet v'yatziv after Shema, and also the brachot afterwards in Arvit, after Shema in Arvit, of Gal Yisrael and Hashgivenu, mechuyavot leomram. If they sing Arvit, they should say those, because that's mitzvah zchirat yetziat Mitzrayim. The mitzvah of remembering Yetziat Mitzrayim is applicable to women as well, because it's noheget bayom u'balayla. It doesn't have, it's not time bound. Therefore, they should do that just like they do any other mitzvah that they are obligated to do. And says the Mishna Berurah, ve'ayem bepri megadim shekatav deleman desover zchirat yetziat Mitzrayim balayla. According to those who hold at night remembering Yetziat Mitzrayim is only a rabbinic mitzvah, is just the asmachta akara. Then it will become a mitzvah aseh grama, because they would hold that it's only during the day that you're chayav, not during the night, and therefore, according to that shita, woman would be patur from the mitzvah of zechirat Yetziat Mitzrayim even during the day, because it's a time-bound mitzvah. It's only midoraita applicable during the day. Therefore, it will become a time-bound mitzvah. Now says the Chafetz Chaim, this is Shulchan Aruch says the proper thing that they should accept or Malchut Shamayim by saying the first pasuk. Mashma mitzad adim pedurot is mashma that halachically speaking they are absolved. They're patur. It's not it's not something that they are obligated to do. But the Bach, the Bet Chadash, he paskins that women are chayav to say the first pasuk of Shema. Chayavin midina lekabel malchut shamayim bepasuk rishon. That's what the Bach understands, and the Ben Ish Chai follows this. Surprisingly, even though that this is not necessarily a well spread shita, the Ben Ish Chai alav shalom paskins like the Bach. The Kaf HaChaim disagrees. Kaf HaChaim, even though that he was a student of the Ben Ish Chai, him or Letzion, Rabbi Obadia Yosef, they all paskin like Shulchan Aruch that mitzat adin, ladies are patur from saying even the first pasuk, and it's just lachatchila that they should say it, but they're not obligated. Now, Gach says the women are chayav the mitzvah of Yichud Hashem, because that mitzvah is a mitzvah tmidit. It's a mitzvah every second of the day. So they are mechuyav to think of Yichud Hashem, and therefore they should read the first pasuk of Shema, says the Bach, to accept upon themselves the achdut, the oneness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And those who argue with the Bach, they hold that even though that the mitzvah of Yichud Hashem is every second, and women are chayav, but it's to do it in the context of Shema, who says, you can't obligate them to read Shema. They'd have to think it's a mitzvah in the person's mind. They could do it in any time that they want, and in any way that they want, in any format that they want. You cannot obligate them to say Shema in a specific time. Okay, Now, the Mishna Berurah continues. בספר נחלת צדיק, פירש לכוונת המחבר, כל פרשת מלכות שמיים is כל פרשה ראשונה. That the woman should say, לכתחילה, not just the first pasuk of Shema, but they should say, Shema and ואהבת until והיה, not והיה included, והרב הוסיף עליו, על כל פנים, כל פסוק ראשון. אבל בלבוש משמע, גם כוונת המחבר הוא רק פסוק ראשון. לבוש understands that even Maran, Shulchan Aruch holds only one pasuk of Shema, nothing more than that, and that's what Kaf HaChaim writes as well. He understands Maran to indicate only first pasuk, and same is with the Ben Ish Chai, and the woman who know how to read and how to learn. Of course, Kaf HaChaim seems to indicate that it's better for them to say the whole Shema. Well, what do you have to lose? You say the Yetziat Mitzrayim, you accept all Malchut Shamayim, you accept all mitzvot. So even though that you're not necessarily saying Shacharit, for instance, imagine a woman can't say Shacharit for whatever reason it is. Yotze Midoraita by saying some Techina in the morning, some praise in the morning, and they're doing Mincha, right? One Tefillah a day they're doing. Okay, again, we spoke about this Ramban and Rambam before, Ashkenazim, Sfaradim. But even if she's not saying the tefillah, she should at least say Shema, and the whole Shema says Kaf HaChaim. If she could read Hebrew, many women did not know how to read Hebrew before the Bet Yaakov movement and the seminary movements and so on and so forth. They're not literate in Hebrew, but this is somebody that could read the whole thing, and that would be, of course, the Chatchila. B'ezrat Hashem, we will continue this in the days to come.